What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
And welcome back to the Rewatch podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm loose enough for all of you. Wait, that's not what I meant. It's not how it sounds, you see. Anyway, move on. No, we don't need to discuss it.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody.
Yes.
Today we're discussing 2 more episodes of Sliders. They are Slide Cage and Asylum. Getting deep in the Kromaggs this week. So before we get started, Tom, you got a little by the way here.
Yeah, there was I talked about a theory that iReactions had mentioned a couple episodes ago about how Penny from what was that was the Common Ground episode.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, how Penny kind of equaled Wade, and if you think of Penny as Wade, it explains a lot of Remy's actions. And I failed to mention that was actually iReactions mentioning what Ian McDuffie had said about the Penny character. So I incorrectly credited that, I realized when I was looking over a couple things. And then we got some information that I didn't know. All I knew was that Charlie O'Connell went to college. I didn't really look further into it, but iReactions provided us with the information that Charlie actually went to the New York University School of Drama. So it just goes to show you that all the training in the world sometimes doesn't equal anything. So there you go. Sorry, Charlie. They've turned out some good people at that School of Drama because I looked it up. And, you know, sometimes it's not in your bones, I guess.
Hey, he's getting better.
He's getting.
Slowly.
I will say. Now, see, I didn't know this. Now, looking up that stuff about Charlie and his school, I had no idea what else he did, and he's done a couple other things here and there. Nothing like utterly amazing. However, he was on a season of The Bachelor as The Bachelor.
Oh, I know about this. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was like, oh my God. And like he got with some girl and they were together, then they broke up, then they got together, then they broke up, then there was talk about getting back together again, and they broke out. It's been like an on again, off again thing.
Yeah.
So, news to me.
Weird. Yeah, no, I remember seeing the ads for it. I never actually watched that season, or any season of The Bachelor for that matter.
Well, I'm kind of interested to see his run now. You know, I might have to try to find that.
Track it down.
Yeah, you know.
Welcome to the
Just
Rewatch podcast, where we rewatch old seasons of The Bachelor.
Exactly. Why not? It's just like that guy, I forget who he said. Was it Mark? I think it was Mark Scott Zickery who watched all of Kerry Warner's old films and Skinamax features. I'm like, maybe I'll have to do this for Charlie.
Or not.
Or not. You know, there is limited hours in the day. So, yeah.
All right. Well, getting into our first episode discussion today. The episode is Slide Cage, written by Mark Scott Zickery and directed by Jerry O'Connell. This originally aired on July 27th of 1998.
So if this is home sweet home, we stick around. If not, we slide out. How long do we have on the Universal Remote?
Oh, brother. We got a problem. Timer's not counting down.
What's wrong with it? You don't know.
Yes, that's right. I don't know. Excuse me. Over here, please. This way. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Colin, it's our father.
I know this may be disorienting for some of you, as you are no doubt trying to get to my world. But instead, you've been shunted here by the slide cage mechanism.
Slide cage?
You see, following the recent human Kromagg war, we have driven the enemy from our world and cloaked it so that they may not return by the same means. And we therefore cannot return you, as that would pose a security risk. If you are a friend rather than an enemy, I am truly sorry. All your needs will be provided for: food and air and shelter. You must not tamper with the dispensing machines. If you attempt to venture outside, the toxic atmosphere will kill you. Aside from these two strictures, you're free to live by the rules that you create. Please, make the best of this world. It is now your world for the rest of your lives.
Using Colin's decrypted microdot coordinates, our sliders prepare to slide home and obtain the ultimate Kromagg destroyer weapon, only to find that their slide is hijacked and they are shunted off to a slide cage, a type of security system put in place by Quinn and Colin's parents in order to prevent entry to their home by the Kromaggs. Many other sliders have ended up prisoners of the slide cage over the years, both human and Kromagg, and they've participated in a decades-long turf war. Remy jumps into the fight immediately to save a human woman, but is captured by the Kromaggs and tortured once again with Kromagg telepathy techniques, which eventually results in them learning that Remy has been implanted with a post-hypnotic suggestion to kill Quinn if he should ever open the slide cage. Meanwhile, Colin and Quinn are imprisoned and Maggie is sent outside to her death by the human group's leader, deeming her unsuitable for their group, saying that she would cause too many deaths because she wouldn't be able to follow orders and toe the line. Luckily, she's saved by a human man named Thomas, who left the group years ago and resides within the walls of the slide cage, content in his solitude, living with the pain of having deserted his troops years ago during the war. Quinn and Colin eventually find a way to escape, and after talking with the human leader, they go to find Remy and offer the Kromaggs the deal of their lifetime, a way to get out of the slide cage. The humans and Kromaggs gather together as Quinn hacks the machine and opens the slide cage, but Remy attacks Quinn, brandishing a knife given to him by the Kromagg leader. His kill is interrupted by the mind powers of Jules, a boy the Kromaggs kidnapped years ago and raised as their own, albeit kept masked to hide his true identity as a human, and also who developed a friendship with Remy. Quinn reveals that the slide cage will return everyone to the last world they slid from, but being that Jules was born in the cage, he has nowhere to go and must stay behind, kept company by Thomas, who's decided to stay behind as well, favoring his life of loneliness over reintegration into society at large.
There they are. Do you recognize it? Do you know where it is, Thomas?
Well, it's
Thomas!
It's a corridor nearby.
Show me the way.
No, that's not such a good idea, really.
What are you talking about?
It would be much better if we just stayed here, safer, trust me.
They're my friends. I have to go find them.
Really bad things happen out there. You only had a taste. This is a controlled environment. No one knows about it. No one comes here. We can live out our lives.
No. No. Thomas, I appreciate your kindness, but I have no intention of staying here. No, I'm going to my friends, whether you come with me or not. I'd rather you come with me.
No, that's out. I don't talk to people.
You talk to me.
You were different. So many have died here. I couldn't let you be another one.
All right, so we actually have some trivia here, a fair bit of it.
Yeah, we do. The original opening was going to be a lot more lavish. So instead of them just sitting on the massage table and lounge chairs and whatnot, there's supposed to be a lot more shots of the the landscape and scenery, just making it seem like very lush and beautiful and a place that you just, would love to be. Most likely cut just for time, because you get the idea, from their initial, there was a lot of references to the old tale of the maze and the Minotaur when they get into the slide cage, with all the corridors and whatnot. And it was like a thing between Colin and the others about, he actually understood that reference because they had that tale as well on his world. In the original script, the Sliders, all of them, helped the humans fight. Instead of Remy just going off on his own and starting to fight in the battle, all 4 of them went out and were fighting and trying to help. And Remy gets knocked out during the battle, and he gets separated from the rest of the gang. Instead of the way it was, where he just goes off and does his own thing and tries to help the humans. It was all 4 of them. Now, I couldn't remember when I was doing the synopsis. I was like, what is that leader's name? Did they tell us that in the episode, and I just missed it, I guess?
No, they do not say her name in the episode. Okay. I took notes, right, and I always just referred to her as the human leader.
Yeah, that's what I did, too.
I eventually just went to IMDb, found the episode, and her name there.
Okay. Yeah, because in the script I saw it was referenced as Janie, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't think I heard that in the episode.
Yeah, no, I am 100% positive they never actually reference her by name.
Okay, good. Originally, she was supposed to have a twang. She was supposed to be like a southern older woman, and some of the lines that she had in there, which were eventually cut, had kind of that ring to it, that southern twang. Like, hey, girl, you better get back over here, that type of thing. Originally, Janie was gonna throw all 3 of the Sliders out of the airlock, so not just Maggie. It's just like, just send them all out there. They're too much trouble or whatnot. And she reconsiders at one point, and then that's when she decides, well, just throw Maggie out. We need to break the spirit, of these other 2 guys. Because they're just they're like mavericks. They want to cause trouble. We got to break them down. So they decide to send Maggie out. Caldine, which in the synopsis I called Jules because that's his human name. I couldn't remember his name was Caldine, so I just went with Jules. In the original script, he was supposed to be in a wheelchair, not just masked, but also in a wheelchair, just to show his frailty, I guess. Interesting. When Remy met with the Kromagg leader, there was no telepathy. Instead, it was torture, physical torture with a knife. He was sort of like brandishing the knife and threatening him and, putting the knife up next to him, all that type of thing. So not really in keeping with the whole telepathy thing that they've established with the Kromaggs already.
And, well, he also has a name.
Right, that's right.
Which is Kolatar.
Kolatar, yes.
Which I don't think they ever actually call him by name in the episode either. I got that from IMDb.
That's why, like, a lot of this episode, I'm like, okay, the Kromagg leader, human leader, and Jules. Okay, Jules. I think they said Caldine a lot more.
Yeah, but I think Kolatar actually does call him Caldine at least twice in the episode.
I think I was just like, you know what? I'll just go back later and tell him the name, I guess. But not important.
Yeah.
Not important, obviously, to Sliders. So in the scene where Colin and Quinn are put into the little room, held captive, Quinn is like kind of freaking out. Like he's very like upset about the fact that Maggie just got killed, and Colin is the one who reassures him. Like there's a conversation about death and what it means, and a couple lines about that from Colin, and he's much more calmer than Quinn is, which kind of makes sense because Colin he tends to be pretty calm in most of these situations. Maybe it's because of his naivete. I don't know, but that seems to fit his character. Quinn, when Quinn found Maggie, eventually, like they do in the actual show, he was a lot more emotional than what we had in the final scene. When in the episode, it's like, hey, there you're alive, yeah, great. But in like the actual script, there was a bigger moment basically for the 2 of them when they finally realized she's alive. There's a part of the original script where Remy sings for Caldine, like, because apparently Caldine has never heard a song. So Remy sings a song for him. He sings that, it's one of those old type of spirituals, that he sings for him. And Caldine's just, like really like amazed by this. Like he's never heard anything like that before.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Caldine is actually looked down upon a lot more in that original script as I was looking through. Like they really like not put him down. They regard him as like really less than equal to all of them. And I didn't get that in the final episode. I got that they kept him masked, because of his mutation or whatever, but like I think there was a lot more dialogue referring to how he was just sort of kept down almost like a slave or a dog, to me anyway, when I read it. Yeah. In the original script, Remy actually takes care of the Kromagg leader, Kolatar. He has a wound on his arm, and Remy puts I forget what he called it. It was some kind of like splint or something, bandages around his arm, helping him, which I thought that seems odd. That seems really odd that he would help a Kromagg, feel or, heal. So, yeah.
Well, especially what we're going to learn in the next episode when it comes to healing.
Exactly.
Kromagg's healing.
Exactly. At the ending, now the ending was really kind of different. Janie, the human leader, and Kolatar, the Kromagg leader, they have a fight at the end about Khaldin. Like, who's going to get Khaldin? Like, who is he going to slide with, the humans? Or is he going to slide with the Kromaggs? Because they both want him. Janie wants him, on their side because he's human, and Kolatar, of course, raised him, so he wants him. And like they have like a lot of words, back and forth, like yelling at each other and saying, "No, he comes with me. No, he comes with me. No, he comes with me. He comes with me." That type of thing. And what happens is Janie gets killed by Kolatar. Like, she goes to pull a knife, and he pulls his first and kills her, and then takes Maggie hostage. And he's holding Maggie hostage with his knife, demanding that Quinn let them go into the, through the portal or whatever. And that's when Khaldin uses his powers to mentally pick up Kolatar or Janie's knife and uses it to stab Kolatar in the heart. So he dies as well at the end there, which is a very different ending from what we got. Actually, I thought, well, that's not too bad. That's kind of cool. In this original one, there was no assassin Remy. He didn't have that post-hypnotic suggestion in the original script. It wasn't in there. And this was just like, I'm glad they did not film this. Because this just sort of tried to force the whole issue of Quinn and Maggie. There was a huge scene when they slide and they're back on the massage world, and Quinn says something, about another ancient tale. Maggie's like, "What was that?" He's like, "Well, it's not the Minotaur. That's not what we just did. This is the story of Orpheus going to the underworld to bring back his love." And Maggie's looking at him like intently, and he says, "Maybe I've found my home." And it says, looking deep into Maggie's eyes as he says that. And I'm like,
vomit. I
know. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't imagine that. Cause like they haven't done that really too much this season as much as they did in the third, Yeah. So I'm glad they didn't put that in there, because it just seemed forced to me. I couldn't imagine that at all.
Yeah. Thank God Jerry O'Connell directed this episode, so it can be like, nope, throwing out the last 5 pages of the script.
I don't think we have time to film that, so we're gonna move on. Anyway, that's the trivia. Thanks to iReactions for finding all these parts of the script for me to check out here. Appreciate that.
He's been fantastic coming in with some trivia since we've had a bit of trouble finding it. So it's been a real sport.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time to actually read the original script and then compare it to what you actually saw and pick out the parts that are, different. So kudos.
All right. Well, before we move on, do we have time for a quick impression?
I think we do.
I think we do. Yeah, I think we do. Maybe just enough time.
Okay.
All right. Cue the music.
Sean Connery is getting a massage while Christopher Walken relaxes on a nearby reclining chair, and a hick and a 1940s mobster work on a laptop. Oh, that's it. Lower, a little lower now, a little to the right. Oh, it's a crying shame we're going to have to leave this place.
No Kromaggs, no bad cops. A world where good tans and massages are compulsory.
A waiter hands Christopher a drink.
Thank you.
All right. Now, this is really just an inversion of the Lorentz transformation. You see, x prime equals x minus ut.
I still don't quite grasp the geometry of space-time, see?
Be patient, bro. You've got to give yourself space and time.
Okay. What do you say, you geniuses? Take a little break and get the kinks out, huh?
I think you're loose enough for the rest of us. 2 minutes and 30 people. Everybody out of the pool. Christopher and Sean are annoyed to be leaving. So, what do you think it'll be this time? Polar Ice World? Talking Dog World? For once, people, I can tell you, we are going home. And scene.
I think your hick spilled over into your Sean there towards the end.
You got some Sean in my hick. No, you got your hick in my Sean.
How could you do it? He's your own son. Wait a minute, you got him in some kind of raid, didn't you?
My own son was killed, and there was no hope of having another. Something about this place prevents it. So I took this one. Everyone is a bit mad here. Some more than a bit.
And no one ever told him he was human.
They were forbidden. Enough of this. I will have your secret now, and then you die. Who are you to kill? Who did they order you to kill? Tell me. Tell me.
Quinn!
Why would they want you to kill your friend?
He's got the key to the slide cage. Go with him to find it. Soon as he can open it, kill Quinn before he can close it.
All right, well, getting into our discussion of Slide Cage. So, kicking off the episode, we're relaxing and getting massages.
Yes.
It's actually not a bad scene. I kind of like it, you know, when they have sort of these times to chill, get prepared in a way. Because, you know, the scene leads to the fact that Quinn has had the time to figure out Colin's microdot.
Yep.
So we're there. Hey, guess what? We can go to our homeworld.
Yeah, it's good because you don't want to have them constantly just doing, you know, adventure after adventure. You need to know they have some downtime.
Exactly. But blah, blah, techno babble.
Yes.
Quinn's getting them home.
Exactly.
I don't know if whatever he was saying was scientifically accurate. It sounded very scientific, so.
Well, there was something about that formula that I forget where that it might have been on earthprime.com in their review that said that the formula really just it equals 1 or 0 or something like that. Like it's not really like an amazing formula that he came up with. It's nothing like that he had on the chalkboard in the pilot. So they said it's kind of a meaningless equation that he just came up with.
It did remind me of the pilot, though, with Arturo teaching the class.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
It's you 4, Mr. Banish, not you 2.
Well, this little scene gives us what I when I first heard it, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a bit close to home there, Quinn. He goes, you know, when he says to Maggie, "I think you're loose enough for the rest of us." I'm like, whoa.
Do you think they knew?
Oh, come on.
What that line was about?
They had to have known.
And are we talking about Maggie or Carrie Ware? That's what I was
anyway,
like,
we move on. We don't want to say anything more about that.
Yeah, but of course, like, as soon as they slide, we get into this concept of the slide cage, which I think is such a cool idea, you know? Not only have Quinn and Colin's homeworld vanquished the Kromaggs and banished them, they set up a system to make sure that even if they got the coordinates to the homeworld, that they couldn't get back there anyway.
Yep.
It is such a cool idea. I mean, whoever came up with this idea, which I'm assuming is Mark Scott Zickery since he wrote the episode.
Exactly. Well, it's interesting. iReaction sent over some behind the scenes stuff that he got from Temporal Flux over at dimensionofcontinuity.com. And apparently, the reason this episode came to be was because Mark Zickery was walking, you know, on the sound stage or whatever, you know, at the studio, and apparently there was a TV show called Time Cop that had been canceled, and they had all these sets available that were going to be dismantled. And he thought, you know what? Let's use this before they take it all down. Let's rent this out and let's use this for an episode. And that's how he came up with the idea for the slide cage. Because you remember we said that Zickery was really into how sliding could be used in different ways with like that slide wave. And now we've got this idea of the slide cage. That was his, big interest about how you could do different things with the sliding technology. So he said, yeah, let's do this, a slide cage. That'd be a cool episode. So that's where it came from.
And at the same time, it sort of lends itself to a bit of ambiguity about where they are.
Right. Oh, yeah,
because,
definitely.
we find out, when they catch up with the humans and Maggie gets shunted into that airlock, that the environment outside is pretty inhospitable. Like, you can't leave the confines of the slide cage. And I think we see 2 moons or a couple of planets in the sky just outside one of the windows as well. So it kind of makes you think, like, is this a parallel world or is this another planet within that Earth system or something? We don't really know. I like to think that this is just another parallel world that, the slide cage mechanism sort of shunts them away from the coordinates of the home world to this other parallel world where the slide cage is. And it disables their timer as well. So
exactly.
It works pretty well.
The budget for a normal episode, apparently, during season 4 was somewhere around $750,000 to $800,000 an episode is what they had. But with this episode, they had these sets were worth like about $500,000 is what Temporal Flux had listed. So this is a much richer looking episode than most of the other ones, because it's just that's a lot. That's an amazing, great set that they didn't have for the other episodes of season 4. Now you compare that, $750,000, $800,000 for season 4 with season 3, which apparently the episodes in season 3 averaged about $1.25 million per episode. It's a big difference there. That's pretty giant. I didn't realize how much they actually spend per episode. To me, I was like, wow, that's a lot of money, I think.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. But, they have this recording of Quinn and Colin's father, and he kind of explains everything to them. And, it's a good bit of exposition to sort of just keep it rolling, introduce us to where we are. Later, when we get the character of Thomas as well, and he sort of gives some scope to the slide cage. It kind of shows you the kind of people that they are. Yes, they vanquished the Kromaggs. Yeah. And they could have taken their weapon and just killed the Kromaggs, killed all of them, but instead they kind of just exiled them. And then when they built the slide cage, it wasn't like they were intentionally trying to have them in some sort of hellhole. They built a very large facility. And I think Thomas says it's like 26 floors or 26 stories, and there's a lot of space. And Thomas is actually surprised that the humans and the Kromaggs ever actually run into each other and fight, because the place is just so freaking big that it's almost impossible to run into anybody with the amount of people and Kromaggs that are in there. So, it kind of just sets up, the kind of people that are on Quinn and Colin's homeworld. These people aren't savages, and they're not going to be as brutal as the Kromaggs. Right. So it's a cool thing.
On the other hand, you got to think, if Quinn could rejigger that slide cage to bounce people back where they came from, why didn't his parents do that? Because people who are coming in there, Kromaggs, fine. You're upset about the Kromaggs because of everything that happened. So imprisoning them there, but humanely, fine. But what about other people? Like people who want to get back home. Why not just bounce them back to where they came from, so they're not held captive for all eternity? Even though they're taken well care of, they're still in captivity. So I think why wouldn't they just maybe set it like Quinn had, to bounce you back? If you try to get to our world, sorry, you're just going to be bounced back to wherever you just came from. I think that would have been even better.
You make a good point. Like, that would be a bit more humane to sort of, instead of trapping them somewhere.
Right, because you never know who you're going to trap.
Yeah. No, you make an interesting point. I didn't really think about it that way, but you're right. That would actually make a lot more sense. So we get the great setup with the message from the father, and then immediately we get into the fact that Kromaggs and humans are trapped there. And of course, they're still at war. You know, the Kromagg still want to wage war against the humans. So they get caught in this fight, and Remy, of course, has to jump in.
Yes.
Like, he's the one.
Leaps right in.
Yeah, out of all of them, he's the one who's had the most contact with Kromaggs,
Well, yeah.
and the one who's been captured and tortured by them before. So you can understand
Oh, yeah, definitely.
how, yeah, he would be the one out of everybody who would want to just jump in, get into this dogfight.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't end well for him because he gets captured and taken away.
Yes.
And when they meet with the humans, when the other three are with the humans, I think it's an interesting thing about how they sort of just throw Maggie in the airlock because she's got a mouth on her, so we'll just get rid of her. She won't survive. It was actually kind of brutal, and I think it fits for the environment that they're in. You know, they've been there for a while. It's like you said in the synopsis, it's got to be around a decade.
Yeah.
That these people have been trapped in here. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a cool progression of the story.
I just thought, like, I don't know, something about that leader, you know, who we now know as Janie. Something about Janie, just, she struck me as not being the greatest leader. Like, just acting like off the cuff, like really without thinking things through. Just like her first reaction, you know, it's like, oh, you know what? Get rid of this girl. She's going to cause trouble. Done. Bye. You know, and then she takes the Mallorys, throw them in the, the room there, just keep them prisoner. I didn't understand why she wanted to keep him prisoner. Like, why not just talk to them and get them, you know, into your little group? More humans, you know, you outnumber the Kromaggs, you know, you got this war going on. More soldiers are better. I just thought she just was a little impulsive, I guess, is the way I saw her as. I'm like, that's not a good leader right there. Someone who doesn't think and try to come up with reasons for things. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I enjoyed the dynamics that they come up with here, there is a few people who I couldn't quite buy their performance, and the Janie character was definitely one of them. She was underdeveloped. I mean, like we said, she didn't even really get a name.
Right.
They didn't really call her by name, so she didn't have enough time in the episode to actually be developed as a fully fledged character.
True, yeah.
But on the other side, the Kromagg leader, Kolatar, I thought was actually pretty good.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. The whole mentally interrogating Remy, I thought, was really well done. Instead of, like, you know, in the original script, the physical torture thing, which, you know, that's something you see all the time. But like the mental torture thing, you know, being able to go into their minds and everything was, you know, something that they had back in the second season with Invasion. So it was really, really good, I thought. Now, you know, originally the Kromaggs were supposed to be a little different than what we got in this season. Because Zikri had an idea for the Kromaggs, but they were supposed to be closer to the original version, where they were not really out there in your face so much. They were going to be more in the background, you know, skulking like they did in that Invasion episode, you know, where they weren't like the primary person talking, like where they had a interpreter, basically. So they were supposed to be a lot different. They weren't supposed to be like these, you know, space Nazis. But the way that Peckinpah wrote Genesis changed that, you know, like he brought them more into the forefront as like, you know, proper villains, so to speak. And once that happened, there was no way for Zikri to go back on his original idea for the whole season, which is too bad, because like we said back then, the Kromaggs do seem very different from those Invasion episodes. They are much more like space Nazis. Also, Wade, you know, we haven't mentioned her in a while, but Wade's fate wasn't his idea. We know it was Peckinpah who came up with that. And, you know, Zikri tried to give notes about episodes, tried to, you know, turn things around and you know, fix it. But mostly those notes were largely ignored, and eventually, you know, Zikri went the way of Torme, where he was like, you know, I'm just not, whatever. You guys keep going, do that. That sounds good. I got other stuff to do. I'll be back tomorrow. You know, that type of thing. So he sort of just like lost his love for it, I guess, a little bit. You know, just like Torme was like, I don't have any control here. There's nothing I can do, so I'm out.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think what he does here with Kolatar and Remy is actually a really good idea. It actually made me wonder, like, if the Kromaggs were aware of the slide cage.
Right.
Because they get into the whole thing later about Remy's subconscious implant that they've put in. And pretty much his mission is that as soon as Quinn deactivates the slide cage, then Remy
Right.
kills him. I was thinking, like, I guess the Kromaggs must know that they can't get to the homeworld. They must have tried at some point and found that, you know, their people aren't actually ending up on the other side. They're going somewhere else. At the same time, I was like, well, how would they know it's the actual slide cage? Because nobody can actually go there and then leave and then report back.
True. That's true.
I guess it was kind of like a general thing. They're just like, wherever you are, as soon as Quinn manages to get around that, then you kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the way he sort of figures it at the end where Quinn doesn't really stop the slide cage, I guess. Does he really shut it down? Because I think all he could do was bounce them back to where they came from.
Yeah.
So he didn't
just
technically turn it off.
Exactly. It's still on, and just no one else will ever end up in the slide cage. It'll just be bounced right back, no matter what.
Yeah.
So they won't even know. No one else will really even know what happened. They'll just say, hey, this didn't work for some reason.
And I think that was really the focus of the episode. I kind of wish it was fleshed out more, because the only other stuff that's happening is Quinn and Colin trying to escape a room that they were put in that's just filled with technology. So, like, they're not going to escape.
No.
And Maggie crawling through the walls with that guy Thomas, who...
Right.
I have to admit, he did a pretty good job. He had some really good scenes when he was talking about his past and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wish they'd spent less time on that stuff and more time with Kolatar and Remy.
Right.
And I guess the character of Caldine, too, because that was also very interesting.
Now, when Caldine showed up, I know I had seen this episode before, but even that first time, I knew that Caldine was going to turn out to be human.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because they telegraphed that pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Batman thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Batman wears a mask, but you can still see his mouth and chin. Like, you can pretty much figure out who it is, you know? Like Superman, like Clark Kent puts on glasses, and you're just like, well, how do people not know who he is?
Right.
Caldine, yeah, he wears that rag over his face, but you can see his mouth and everything. So... you're like, he's human, you know? Kromagg have those fang-like teeth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it was pretty clear that he was human.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the idea, too, that he was born in the slide cage.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I think his age is a bit of a discrepancy when it comes to that. I think he seems pretty old. I think the slide cage was probably built later than how old he was supposed to be. Like, what do you think he was supposed to be? Like, 15?
Yeah, like a teenager, you know? Somewhere around there, like high school age, you know?
Yeah, so it would have had to, I guess at the very least, be like his parents slid in and his mother was like already pregnant.
Yeah, maybe
or
that's
like
what it was.
even like heavily pregnant when she got there.
Right, yeah.
So I guess they needed him to be older because he needed to be able to fulfill his function as like a human who had learned all these mental techniques and everything, and he sort of had to have the capacity to be able to connect with Remy and understand that he had been raised as a Kromagg even though he's human. And you couldn't pull that off with like a 10-year-old or something.
No, we wouldn't want to see that.
Yeah.
You especially would not want to see that.
No. Although I did realize after editing that I didn't call out the bad performance of the kid in Alternateville Horror.
Yeah, you didn't.
So I guess it didn't bother me that much.
Look at that. Making changes. See that? Changing your ideas of children actors.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little.
Or he was just such a non-entity that I didn't care.
That's probably more of it.
But yeah, so Maggie with Thomas in the walls. I thought the Thomas character was really interesting. You know, the way he sort of brings up the Kromagg human TV show, quote unquote. Like I've been watching the Kromagg Human War TV show for 10 seasons now.
Oh, there was a funny bit of extra dialogue in the original script too, where he looks at Kolatar when he first meets him for the first time, and he says something like, "You look taller on TV." It was a good throwaway line. I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah, but that guy was actually pretty good. The actor's name is Kelly Connell. Yeah, when he had his moments, you know, talking about how he ended up in the slide cage, that he was with a group of, I guess, military people, and they were all slaughtered by the Kromaggs, and he sort of spent a couple of years wandering around. He kind of ran away from the fight, and that's why he survived.
Exactly.
And then after a couple of years, he decided, maybe I will go back home. And, of course, that was only to end up in the slide cage. So he sort of feels like he's paying him penance being there.
Exactly.
and being alone as well. Even though there were humans there, he chooses to spend his time in the walls, hiding from the fight that's going on outside.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's what I mean. Like, they introduced like the leader character, Janie, and she got nowhere near as much depth as the Thomas character did.
Definitely not. No, his character was really good.
Mixed bag for the characters, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We get some more scenes of Remy being interrogated, and again, I think Clavant Derricks is just nailing it.
Yeah, very good.
We've seen this a few times now, but every time I think he's killing it. And when Kolitar finally manages to draw that subliminal message out of his head after the reveal of who Khaldeen is, I think it was Kolitar who says, like, human minds are blood and flesh, whereas the Kromagg mind is a knife. And then he just goes to work on Remy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ah, man. I just thought it was fantastic. But I think when Quinn figures things out, like he figures like he can go and do it, and he makes a deal with Kolitar about safe passage for all.
Right.
And Janie comes up to him and she's like, maybe when we get there, the Kromaggs don't have to go. Like, we could just tell them that they're going and then not do it. I think it's great that Quinn sort of sticks to his morals. Like,
yeah, definitely.
When he says, like, I've made a promise, I've made a deal. Again, I think it's sort of separating humanity from Kromaggs, because, of course, we find out that Kolitar was happy to let Remy go ahead with the subliminal suggestion that's been put into his head.
Yeah, it sort of makes Janie seem just as bad as the Kromaggs. Because she doesn't have those. She's kind of lost her way, her morals over the years of fighting.
And I think when they bring Khaldeen in, and she has the chance to tell him of his parents and tell him his real name, Jules.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was supposed to soften her up a bit, like take that hard edge off her or something like that. But again, because we didn't really know the character that well, I was like, yeah, I don't really care.
Exactly.
I actually kind of feel better for Jules that he got to learn his name rather than the returning of this kid is making Janie feel better.
Exactly.
But we get to see Jules use Kromagg abilities, which is very interesting.
Yep.
Being raised by Kolitar, he actually taught him how to do this stuff.
Yep. Which foreshadows our next episode.
Yeah. So it's interesting that he kind of has this whole thing about how he lost his son or sons. I think he had a few kids or something. They all died. So he just said, well, so I took this one. And it's like you said, like in the trivia, in the original script, he was supposed to be treated like a dog or a servant or something like really shit on.
Right.
And I don't think that's how it plays in this episode. Like,
definitely not. He's more loving.
Yeah.
As loving as a Kromagg could be.
Yeah, I kind of hate to say it, but it would make more sense that the other Kromaggs would treat Jules like a piece of trash.
Right, exactly.
Because he's human, They would have something to say about Kolitar teaching him the ways of Kromagg, mind manipulation and all that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he turned out to be a loving father, and I think that's the message we're supposed to take away from it, is that Kromaggs and humans, albeit that they're different, are actually really similar as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
We need to look beyond our differences. It's a progressive message.
Because, it's very easy to think, oh, yeah, the Kromaggs, they're just like these alien, evil space Nazis. But you got to remember that they are supposed to be just a different line of humans, a differently evolved set of humans. So they do, having some similarities like this, makes sense.
Exactly. They're trying to liken it to a form of racism or something like that, just because someone has a different color skin, or maybe someone's disabled or whatever prejudice is out there.
Right.
It doesn't help to be a bigot, Yep. It's better to focus on your similarities rather than your differences. I think it's a good message overall for the episode, and it's kind of a downer ending as well, because he can only send them back to where they came from, and Jules was born in the slide cage, so he has
Right.
to stay.
Yep.
I guess Thomas decides to stay as well. I don't know how. I guess it's nice that somebody is there with Jules. Like, he's not
Right.
just left there alone. We get a scene. We get like the little tiniest bit where Remy promises to come back for Jules. No.
How's that going to work? You remember? No one's coming here ever again. But okay.
Yeah.
Make him feel good, you know.
We've seen Remy do this before. Like, I promise I'm going to come back with you. In this instance, it would have made more sense if he says, you know, we're going to get to the home world. And when we do, we will send
Right.
people for you. We'll
Yeah.
let them know that you are up here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he'd said something like that, it would have made more sense instead of the same old, I promise to just come back for you. We know you're not going to, so whatever.
Well, it makes sense for Thomas to stay behind, though, because he really liked his solitude. He didn't really want to be with anybody else. I mean, he was happy to have found like a hot woman that he rescued. You know, he was very happy about that. But I mean, in general, I think he just wanted to live out his life on his own. You know, he has his routines and everything. So it makes sense that he would stay.
Yeah, and it's not like the slide cage doesn't provide for them. We know
Right.
that food comes in, there's food
Yep.
dispensers, not unlike the, made me think of the ones on the Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Food dispensers. It's in the Kromaggs had been growing vegetables and stuff. That was pretty cool.
Mhm.
We kind of saw all the plants and things that they'd cultivated on the side. So, yeah, it's not like it's the worst place in the world to live. The only downside of it, really, was that the humans and the Kromaggs fought each other all the
Well,
time, which made it a bit inhospitable.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good episode, even
Yeah,
with
not bad.
with some of the lesser performances and undeveloped characters. Still pretty
Right.
good.
And now it's time for another episode of Yes Ma'am with Maggie Beckett.
What do I do? What if this is one of those strange worlds?
Colin, every world is a strange world.
This has been another episode of Yes Ma'am with Maggie Beckett.
All right, so getting into our second episode today. The episode is Asylum. This episode was written by Bill Dial and directed by Michael Miller. This originally aired on October 17th of 1998.
Am I in heaven?
No, you were in Van Nuys. You were in an accident. You were out for a while, but you're going to be just fine.
You're my doctor.
For the time being. My name is Grace Venable.
Well, Dr. Venable, I'm sure you're taking care of me. Hey, guys. Oh,
Take it easy.
guess I'm still a little dizzy. What hit us?
A wagon. It came out of nowhere.
Wagon? Yeah, but we were in a plane.
You're mixed up, Remy. We haven't been in a plane since the war. He's a little mixed up. Quinn is in a very serious condition, Rem. He's in ICU. And, we have to go to New York in 3 days. You got that? And if Quinn isn't better by then, we may have to leave him.
Should be no problem for you to make the trip on time. We'd like to keep him under observation tonight, but I think he'll be out of here in the morning.
Good.
We're in the usual place.
We find our group aboard a plane, facing deadly gunfire when an explosion injures Quinn and Remy right before their slide. Upon arriving in the new dimension, Colin goes for help and eventually gets a Dr. Grace Venable to bring the Sliders in for treatment, and whom Remy falls for and manages to score a date, later revealing to her that he is a Slider but has plans to stay on this world and care for Quinn and begin a life with her here. Meanwhile, Colin and Maggie are approached by a man named Ralph Hackett who claims to know of better hospitals and treatment centers for Quinn, offering his assistance if they will help him in finding a Kromagg sympathizer who happens to be the aforementioned doctor. They find out that Kromaggs invaded this world merely for supplies and made a deal with the Queen of England for the said supplies, and also made use of human doctors when their own doctors couldn't handle the native diseases. After a bow chicka wow wow night with Remy, Venable is taken into custody, devastating the crying man, but ultimately finally understanding why Maggie had helped Hackett find her. He convinces Colin and Maggie to help him find Grace before she is taken back overseas because she knows a secret Kromagg mental technique and bring him out of his coma completely healed in time for the slide. Her technique works and Quinn awakens, healed and rested, while Hackett takes Grace away, commenting that her actions may help her in court, while our sliders catch Quinn up on what has happened.
I was hoping you might have some ideas about how I could get better help for my friend. I mean, that hospital seems so overloaded.
Yeah, most of them are. But like I said before, I have some good connections up north. Private clinics, very best doctors.
I really appreciate it.
They're very expensive, I'm afraid.
I'd do whatever it takes.
He must be a very good friend.
The best.
All right, so, tell me your story. I take it you weren't neutral.
I don't understand how anybody can be neutral with the Kromaggs.
You were in the service?
Yes. After California seceded, I stayed with the Marine Corps and flew fighters off a carrier.
UN Expeditionary Force?
Yeah.
North Baltic push?
I had a little taste of that.
Uh-huh. I had some friends involved. Special operatives, undercover sabotage, partisan fighting,
that line of country.
Quite, yeah. All right. Death to the Maggs.
Death to the Maggs.
And to those who give them comfort.
All right, so just a tiny bit of trivia here.
So, yeah, it's just a little bit more of behind the scenes, because there was no original script that iReactions could find for this, so there was no way to really, compare back and forth.
Right.
So, basically, Bill Dial, the writer of this story, a lot of people, when they talk about, the fourth season of Sliders, Bill Dial's a great writer. When he's writing, he's dedicated to the story. He would write, like in this episode, he would write songs for Remy to sing. He commits to it, heart and soul. He develops the alt histories, which we got a lot of in this episode. But as a personal, like him himself, they describe him as a person being petty, abrasive, volatile, very lazy. He's the one who's ignoring a lot of the changes that Zickery would suggest, like his notes on episodes, because he would rather just shoot the script as it was written. He doesn't care about making any changes. That's it. It's done. We're doing it this way. And that's, my way or the highway. So he was actually a little bit more like David Peckinpah, in his style of, leadership, I guess, so to say.
Well, I think he's also an executive producer, right, Bill Dial? I'm pretty sure I saw that credit in the opening credits. So interesting.
Yep.
All right. Well, do we have enough time for just one more quick impression? I think we have time.
Let me check. Let me see. Yes.
All right. Cue the music.
Christopher Walken runs for help and spots a hick in a horse-drawn carriage approaching.
Could it be? Is this my home world?
He waves down the hick.
Hey, stop. Can you give me a ride into town? I'm lost.
The hick pulls a gun on him. How'd you get lost?
2 friends and I. We were looking for some property, and I suppose the map was wrong.
And where are your friends now?
Down the road, a mile or so, they sent me for help.
Help? For what?
My friend fell down, injured his head.
All right, climb on.
Thanks. So, is this the way to El Segundo?
Granada Hills. Are you sure you're not the one who hit his head?
No, my head's good. Thanks.
And scene. Oh, Christopher.
Maybe came off a little Jerry Seinfeld there.
It's all right. It's good. It's,
I might have to develop my Jerry Seinfeld.
There you go. Who are these people?
Who are these people?
Kromaggs, who are these? What's the deal with them?
Listen, I haven't told you the whole truth about myself. My friends and I, we're not just passing through. We've got this device. Now, I'm not sure if I understand it. The guy who does, the one who invented it, he's in a coma in your hospital. Maggie, Colin, and I, we're not going to New York in 2 days. We're going to another world.
You mean to tell me you're Sliders?
Of course. Of course. Kromags have sliding technology. You know all about it.
I know a little bit about it, but I had no idea until now that humans had actually ever done it.
Sometimes I wish we hadn't. I mean, some of the worlds we go to, they're a lot like home. Sometimes they're completely different. Sometimes they look the same until you look closely and you find that one little thing, something that you never thought to be important at all, can change everything.
Like meeting someone special?
Yeah.
All right, so getting into our discussion of Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
I could not for the life of me remember this episode coming into it.
Yeah, I didn't remember anything about it either.
Yeah.
Even after seeing it, I was like, did I ever see this before? I don't know if I did.
I know that you, really don't remember much of season 4. I'd at least watched it a couple of times in the past, however long it's been, 17 years since it aired. But yeah, I really couldn't remember what this episode was about. But it's kind of about Kromags, but not really.
Kind of. Yeah.
We kind of got a link to the Kromags here.
Right.
But, starting off, we're in the middle of the Californian Civil War, apparently. And Quinn is severely injured during a plane crash.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up on this world, which I guess we kind of start off thinking it's primitive.
Right.
Colin sees a guy in a horse and carriage and thinks, oh, maybe I'm back on my home world. And then we get more stuff where we see modern conveniences, cars, and ambulances, and they're all being drawn by horses.
Yeah. Now let me tell you this now. All right, because when I saw the two horses pulling a freaking ambulance, I get that they've converted, modern conveniences, and use horses to pull their vehicles and whatnot. But, I looked it up. A typical ambulance is somewhere, between 3 and 5 tons. 3 and 5 tons. And 2 horses are pulling that thing. Not to mention the humans riding on top and the humans riding in the back and the injured. The heaviest weight recorded that 2 horses have pulled is 4,800 pounds. Okay. And that was only over about 7 feet. So it doesn't come close to, 5 tons plus humans on the thing over many, many miles, what it seems like anyway. And over not paved roads. So I was like, man, those horses, God love them. This world's going to run out of horses eventually, because that's a lot of hard work they have these horses doing.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about it and I was like, well, I guess you're not using any fuel or anything like that. So you could strip out, all the stuff.
I suppose.
That makes the ambulance go, but it's still an ambulance.
Yes.
And they've got electrical equipment and stuff in that needs a battery to run on.
Exactly.
So there's still stuff in the ambulance.
It's just make a wooden carriage, just go back to the 1800s, make a wooden carriage or whatever.
Yeah, we see it later.
Yeah,
see
exactly.
that later.
Yeah. So yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh no, come on, really? I mean, those poor horses,
Yeah, it's a little far-fetched. But, actually, I skipped over something.
Oh, yeah, you did. I was going to say it. I've got to go back.
Man, this just irks me.
This was the first thing in the episode that I was like, what?
Yeah,
no.
Because they decide they're going to jump out of the plane, right? There's no parachutes. So they open the vortex. And then it's 10, 15 seconds later that they jump out. I'm like, no, the vortex would be all the way back there. You wouldn't be able to jump out of the plane into it.
Exactly.
I think we're going to see this again before the end, where they open the vortex whilst on I think it might be on a train.
Yeah.
It might be in the last episode even, where they open it while they're on top of a train.
Oh my god.
And it travels with the train, and you're just like, oh, no. No. It doesn't make sense.
I know. I was just like, holy cow, really? You know, like just, it's like when they open, it's just like when they open the vortex above them and they have to like jump up and get a leg up to get into it. It's like, why would you do that? Just right in front of you and just walk into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really, I was like, no.
Yeah. So I put that out of my head almost instantly. I wrote it down so I could mention it, but yeah, okay, I'm just going to forget that happened.
Yes.
Because the world that they're on is actually it's a cool idea, you know?
Right.
This whole thing that the Kromaggs had invaded, but they've gone. And the reason that they've gone is because they only invaded this world to pillage resources.
Right.
Which
That's
makes
a good
sense,
idea.
you know? They've got a war machine they've got to run.
Exactly.
So why not just attack worlds and take their resources?
Mm-hmm. And we find out that there actually are Kromagg sympathizers, one of whom was the Queen of England.
Well, I noticed you said the Queen of England, and did they actually mention the Queen? They mentioned Margaret Thatcher.
Oh, well, maybe it's not then. Maybe I got mixed up.
Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister.
Right, the Prime Minister, not the Queen. Not
but
Queen
it would make you think that the Queen would also be involved. If higher government...
Well,
like
exactly. That's what I was
Thatcher,
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, then the royal family was probably in on it too.
Well, yeah, that's what I was, because I figure she's doing it for the good of England, so they don't, get taken over. So I assume that it was just all of England doing that.
And a lot of people argue that the Queen doesn't really have any power, quote unquote.
Right.
Really, like she has no purpose.
More of
in
a
actual
figurehead?
Politics. Yeah, exactly. She's a figurehead. When it comes to actual things being done politically, it's the Prime Minister who's
right.
in
And see,
charge.
that's why I sort of like juxtapose the two in my head, because that's whenever you hear in the news, it's always the Prime Minister meeting with the the President and all that. So I just sort of like put them together in my head, I think.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool too, because it also gives them like a term to use for sympathizers, Kromagg sympathizers, instead of just saying Kromagg sympathizers or Kromagg collaborators all the time.
Right.
They just call them Thatchers. They get into the guy who is tracking them down. What's his name? Ralph?
Yeah, Ralph Hackett.
Ralph Hackett. Cool character. I kind of liked him.
Yeah, definitely. He wasn't your typical like bad guy that you would expect. Like he's actually doing a good thing.
Yeah, like they sort of like hold on to who he is and they slowly reveal it to the point where you're just like, what's this guy's deal? You know, he's got guys there who he's giving guns to. Like, what are they up to? But yeah, when it turns out that he's actually a good guy.
Yeah. He was actually done a lot better than the failed student in the Alternativeville horror. You know, like how they tried to set him up as like this mysterious guy. But he's really just this, weird guy who just got a failed, tech student or whatever. Whereas this guy, you sort of got the feeling like, oh, he must be bad or something, like he really felt like he must be bad.
Yeah, exactly. Getting into the old history again, like I've said, like over these few episodes where they've really given us old history, which is fantastic. Cool. We just get like a little snippet of the news, and they actually say Charlton Heston is the president, but not of the USA.
No.
He's the president of California.
Yes.
And he's gotten into some political hot water because he says that not everybody needs to have a gun. Which is almost the exact opposite of what Charlton Heston used to say.
Someone had to have told him that, like someone said, oh my God, Chuck, this episode of Sliders, they just said that you said, no, everyone has to have a gun. I'm sorry.
And then as the camera like pans away, you get kind of just like a little bit as it fades off where the news reporter is talking about the Santa Cruz Bazooka Club. It's like, no, wait, just stay on it. I want to hear what he has to say.
Yes.
It was really well done. I thought it was, it was just a great way to sort of get that old history in there. It was really funny. So they managed to get help from Miss Doctor, Grace, and she's helped out Quinn, who's in a really bad way. Remy also got a concussion, apparently, which I thought was really weird at the beginning when Maggie sent Colin to get help. And I was like, why would she send Colin out? Like,
Yeah.
they have a whole discussion about how, like, oh, just every world we go to is weird. You just got to deal with it, go and find someone. I'm just like, why wouldn't she just send Remy? But yeah. So apparently he had a concussion. And he wakes up in the hospital and immediately starts flirting with Grace.
Yes, he does.
Which we haven't seen in a while.
We haven't seen in a very,
getting
very
a little
long time.
action.
Actually, he's very, like, in this episode, like, at least here in the very beginning, he's more true to his old form. Like, he's laughing and he's happy about getting this date with her. Like, we haven't seen him act like that, like you said, in a while. He's like, I got me, girl. He's more old school Remy there.
They have a pretty serious discussion about what they're going to do because I think, Quinn's in a coma?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and Grace doesn't really bring it up immediately. She kind of brings it up a little later that she is a doctor. She's not stupid.
Right.
He's burnt.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't injuries sustained from falling over in the mountain somewhere. But yeah, he's in a coma and he might not wake up from it. So what are the guys going to do? Even Colin's like, do we stop sliding? Do we keep looking for my home world? What do we do? And they get in this whole thing about like trying to find the best care that they can. So of course Maggie arranges to have dinner with Ralph, who they'd met in the bar. He sort of talked about knowing medical referrals in Canada. Remy, of course, already has a date with Grace.
Yep.
So he can pump her for information.
Nicely done.
And Colin goes to the library.
Yes.
But again, they sort of like weave in these cool themes of the world as a side effect of what's happened to it. So here in a world where the Kromaggs invaded, a lot of people fled their countries. So you've got like a large population of other cultures ending up in the United States, and they have all these weird cross-cultural cuisine restaurants.
Right.
The one that they go to being Miguel San. Mexican Japanese food. So I think it's funny that Remy and Grace have the conversation about it, where she's like describing the food, the Tokyo roll.
Right, yeah.
And then the very next scene they cut to, it's the restaurant that Ralph has taken Maggie to.
Yeah, food played a big part in this episode.
Although, like, Remy's, like, wincing at the Tokyo roll. I didn't think it sounded that bad. She was like, it's like crab and guacamole in a tortilla wrap or something. I'm like, that doesn't sound so bad. Like, I would eat that.
He has different tastes, that's all. I
think it's supposed to be a California roll.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, California rolls, but even though it's Japanese food.
Yeah, it's just those little touches that, trying to flesh out the world more, which is nice.
It leads to the romance of Grace and Remy, which I actually think was a really good touch for the episode. I mean, like, I know we said it's been a while since we've sort of had Remy being the ladies' man.
Right.
But, with Quinn being in a coma, they talked about it during the Alternateville horror of, like, finding a good place and settling down. He's met this woman. Quinn's in a bad way, so he's made the decision he's going to stay.
Right.
And then he opens up to Grace about everything, being from other worlds, fighting with the Kromaggs. They've got that in common. And it's setting him up for the inevitable downfall of finding out that she was a Thatcher.
Yeah.
Again, it's giving Clavant these awesome emotional scenes. I think he kills it. He kills it every time he has to do these really emoting scenes.
Yeah, he's definitely much better. Like they found a good thing for him to do instead of just being the comic relief, because he really delivers. He's a great actor.
Exactly.
Yeah, and being that he has this history with the Kromaggs of being tortured for months, he does a very good job of that.
It is a little convenient that like Colin finds the information about Grace in the library at the exact same time that Ralph is revealing who he is to Maggie and that he's there to get Grace.
Right.
Like, that all seems to come together at exactly the same time.
Yeah. I thought it was funny when he's given the information, like when Maggie tells Remy and Colin's like, yeah, I found it on the computer. And I'm like, well, if it's on the internet, it must be true, Colin. You got to... Colin, you have much to learn.
Yeah, that's true.
He was like on the Onion website or something like, see, it says right here.
That'd be really funny. He gets an Onion News article.
Exactly. Because he would totally fall for it. That's his character.
Yeah.
So.
And you think that, like, Remy's openness is being returned by Grace? Because you think that she's now confiding in him and tells him about a mental healing technique that she had learned.
Right.
Of course, she didn't completely open up because we find that this was a technique taught to her by the Kromaggs. Like you said about the last episode on Jules learning these mental techniques. So not only did they trust her as a collaborator, they taught her their healing techniques. And when she is arrested and Remy actually talks to her, tells her that she has to come and save Quinn, like he knows that she had learnt these techniques. And then he says, I don't want you to do this for me.
Yes.
This has to be... So he even like gives her the opportunity to say, look, I know you said you don't want to help, but this is for you.
Right.
If you do this, then you'll be doing it for yourself.
Right, because you're a healer. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
know?
Like I said, like Clavon Derricks is just nailing this. So, when she actually comes around and she heals him, and then he has to say goodbye to her. And at that moment, you're just like, how can he look at her and all that? But he still sort of gives her the benefit of the doubt. Tell me they tortured you, that they killed your family. Tell me they did that they made you work with them.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, no, I can't tell you that. And that's at the moment when he realizes that love could have been real, but it's just, I can't even look at you anymore.
It makes me think now about, like, she's a doctor, and doctors do take an oath to, help and heal whoever they can. Like, I wonder, though, like, yeah, she's a Kromagg sympathizer, but haven't there been cases where doctors have helped the enemy, healed the enemy, because that's what they do. They're doctors and they see someone who is hurt and that's what they've vowed to do. So couldn't we apply that to her situation as well?
Right. Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
They're just there to be doctors.
Right. I mean, in our minds, it's like, oh, the Kromaggs are awful and they've done so many horrific things to Remy himself and what they, with Wade and everybody else and, countless dimensions. But if we think about, how doctors make that, that vow, they're going to help without, caring who you are because that's what they do. Maybe that's where she's coming from.
Yeah,
I'm just, playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, it's true. But
playing peck and paw's advocate.
Yeah. I guess when an invading force of, what is technically a different species, albeit an offshoot of humanity, or a differently evolved version of humanity.
Yeah.
Comes into your world and just attacks you for really no reason.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I guess we forget this because they don't bring it up very often, but Kromaggs eat human eyes.
Right. Yeah, they haven't said that in a while.
Love to pluck eyes out of your head and eat them. And so they're also eating people
Yeah.
I guess you could be like, to hell with my Hippocratic oath.
Right. Oh, yeah. I just, I figure, let take a look at it from all sides, because you never know, maybe. Yeah. Right.
But, I thought this was a fantastic episode, especially for Clavon Derricks.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I liked that he actually got a chance to sing. And listening to the song, I was like, man, that sounds like that could be like a real, little gospel tune or something, but I guess it was just written for the episode. And whoever was playing the piano, I assume that it was Clavon because I know he's a musician. So maybe he was playing the piano. He was playing like in key that he was singing because I looked at his hands and I went back just to watch it again and checked it out against the real keyboard. And he's actually playing the chords that he's singing to. The sounds you hear are actually what he is pressing with his fingers. So I'm like, well, that's cool. Because sometimes, people are playing the piano in movies and shows and you look at it, it doesn't match up at all. But yeah, he matched up.
Yeah. So it makes you think that did he sing and play during the scene? Probably.
Yeah.
All in all, fantastic episode. This was an absolutely stunning episode for the season, I think.
Yep. And like I said, I didn't remember anything. I don't think I've ever even seen it before. It was good.
Where's Quinn?
He's getting dressed.
Is it gonna be okay?
A little shaky, but, yeah. He'll be fine.
I don't know how to thank you.
Take me with you. I know a back way out of the hospital.
Tell me that they tortured you. Tell me that they killed your family. Tell me that you had no choice but to help them.
All right, so let's get into some messages in time.
All right, so not too much. Most of it was pretty much what we've already said. Like they should have missed the vortex. Why would they open the vortex on the or outside of the plane like that? Because for whatever they went on for a long thread about physics and formulas about how this would end up over there and and skydiving into it was just not, it's just not plausible. So
I put that out of my head.
Yeah.
I called the episode stunning.
Right.
And that's because I forgot about that.
Right. Well, this is what the internet is for, So of course they're gonna latch onto that. But then they agreed, that Clavant is just killing it in these episodes. He's really doing an amazing job, and thank goodness he's not the old, goofy, losing their money clown Rembrandt that he's been before. So, yeah, that's about it for that episode. Then for the first episode, for Slide Cage, they liked, or they wondered if it was a goof, that they forgot to fix that Maggie called the timer a universal remote. Because that's what
that was weird.
I guess it does look like that, but yeah, I noticed that too. What's his name? Vader, the guy who reviews each episode on these forums, he said it seems like a homage to Star Trek, because they've got this circular bridge area, they've got a Kromagg mind heal, just like the Vulcan mind meld. There's secret mind instructions, I guess, from an episode of Star Trek that was in there as well. So he drew a lot of comparisons to Star Trek, which I could sort of see. See that.
Yeah.
It was definitely more sci-fi-ish than they've been in a long time. So, yeah, it could be. They liked the change that it's not just for people trying to get home anymore. Now it's changed to where it's about all the many cultures that have developed sliding. It's a lot of science stuff now, instead of just being about, we're just trying to get home. It's now about looking at these different ways sliding has been used and all the cultures that use it. And then finally, they were trying to reason. This was a big thing. They were trying to reason how Thomas could have seen Beauty and the Beast because it aired so much earlier than he would have been able to see it or something. It aired while he was in the slide cage or something like that. If you consider our airing date of Beauty and the Beast on TV, they said, how could he have seen that episode or that show? Because it aired after this happened and he was away on this world and that world. It's like,
well, parallel universes, man. Maybe they made it way earlier.
Exactly.
He didn't mention Linda Hamilton or anyone.
Exactly.
So it could have been anybody in that.
Yeah, exactly. It could have been Barbara Streisand for all we know. She'd make a perfect beast. I mean, beauty, Oh, no. Anyway, there you go for messages in time.
All right. No messages from Earth Prime.
Actually, I meant to look up the reviews on iTunes and forgot to do that. So we'll have to do that for next episode, and then we'll see what else we got. I know we got one from Nikki, so.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she did say that.
So we have to. We'll look that up and we'll include that. And maybe by the time we do the next episode, someone else will have left us a review. Hint, hint on iTunes. Yeah. Hint, hint, everybody.
Maybe a few people will.
Maybe a few people. A couple, 3, 4, 10, 20. That's all good.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week we're discussing 2 more episodes. Those episodes are California Reich and The Dying Fields. And again, I have no idea what these episodes are about.
No idea. Although California Reich makes me think of like the Nazis. So I don't know if that's what's going to happen or what, but I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe Kromaggs, possibly.
I would say probably yes.
Yeah, but I think maybe once I start watching the episode, it might trigger some memories. But
Right.
yeah, just going by the titles of the episodes, I got no idea.
Oh, well, that's it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast and follow the show on Twitter at rewatchpod. And you can visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as Dimension of Continuity, which we mentioned earlier, earthprime.com, and the active forum over at sliders.tv.
And remember, you can always write us an email or record a voice message and send it to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you've enjoyed the show, please head over to iTunes and give us a rate and review. Really helps out the show, helps people find the show more, and it gets more people listening to send us some feedback, because we love it.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for joining me, Tom.
Of course.
And I will just say, until next time, I'm going to go and get some takeout from Miguel San, Japanese Mexican deli, where ranchero cooking meets the Pacific Rim.
We got to slide.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code, Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Copyright 2015, The Rewatch Podcast.